other countries. And I say that friend and foe. And in many cases, the friend is worse than the foe in terms of trade. But such horrendous imbalances have
はい、
devastated our
皆さんおはようございま
industrial
す。
base
ちょう
and
ど
put
今
our
の時間聞こ
national
えてるかも
security
わかりま
at
せん
risk.
け
I
ど
don't
も、
blame these other countries at all
ト
for
ランプ
this,
関
but
税
I
発
blame
表してます
former
ね。
presidents and past leaders who weren't doing their job. They let it happen, and they let it happen to an extent that nobody can even believe. That's why, effective at midnight, we will impose a 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles.
25% automobile.
Brian, I'd like to have you come up here for a second, okay? I just see him sitting. He's been a fan of ours, and he understands this business a lot better than the economists, a lot better than anybody. Brian, say a few words, please. Thank you. It's a great honor to have you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I grew up just north of Detroit, Michigan, in Macomb County, known as the home of the Reagan Democrats. My first vote for president was Ronald Reagan. I thought that was going to be the best president I ever saw in my lifetime until Donald J. Trump came along.
外国製自動車に 25% の
My
関税。
entire life, I have watched plant after plant after plant in Detroit and in the metro Detroit area close. There are now plants sitting idle. There are now plants that are underutilized. And Donald Trump's policies are going to bring product back into those underutilized plants. There's going to be new investment. There's going to be new plants built. And the UAW members, and I brought 20 of them with me. They're sitting right over here. We support Donald Trump's policies on tariffs 100%. So, Mr. President, we can't thank you enough. And in 6 months or a year, we're going to begin to see the benefits. I can't wait to see what's happening 3 or 4 years down the road. Thank you, Mr. President.
まあ、それはそうでしょう
What
ね。
a great guy. He got it right from the beginning. He got it before almost anybody else. This group over there, they got it too. And, you know, we won the state of Michigan. We won almost all of them. But we won Michigan by a lot. And I want to just thank you all. The auto workers were fantastic. The Teamsters were fantastic. Everyone was pretty good, I will tell you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You're going to be very happy very soon. And you probably see what's happening with all of the, not only car companies, but car companies in particular. See it with all of the ones they're moving, they're announcing day in, day out. You're seeing it. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. With today's actions, we're also standing up for our great farmers and ranchers who are brutalized by nations all over the world. Brutalized. Canada, by the way, imposes a 250 to 300% tariff on many of our dairy products. They do the first can of milk. They do the first little carton of milk at a very low price, but after that it gets bad, and then it gets up to 275, 300%. So when they're figuring what's Canada charging, they say, oh, about 2%, 3%. But take a look at what happens down the road. When you look a little bit, it's not a pretty picture, and we don't like it, and it's not fair. It's not fair to our farmers. It's not fair to our country. And with countries like Canada, you know, we subsidize a lot of countries and keep them going and keep them in business. In the case of Mexico, it's $300 billion a year. In the case of Canada, it's close to $200 billion a year. And I say, why are we doing this?
カナダの乳製品、メキシコ。
We say, you got to work for yourselves, and you got to. This is why we have the big deficits. This is why we have that amount of debt that's been placed on our heads over the last number of years, and we're really not taking it anymore. Through non-tariff barriers, the European Union bans imports of most American poultry. You understand? They say, we want to send you our cars, we want to send you everything, but we're not going to take anything that you have. Australia bans, and they're wonderful people and wonderful everything, but they ban American beef, yet we imported $3 billion of Australian beef from them just last year.
オーストラリアの牛ですね。
They don't want it because they don't want it to affect their farmers. And you know what? I don't blame them, but we're doing the same thing right now, starting
同じことやるんだ。
midnight tonight, I would say. And China charges American rice farmers an overquota, it's called, a tariff rate of 65%. South Korea
65%, China.
charge different from 50% to 513%. In Japan, our friend charges us 700%, but that's because they don't want us selling rice and other things. Who can
米ね、
blame them, Madam
70% の
Secretary
関
of
税化してる。
Agriculture? Great job you did on eggs, by the way. The egg prices came down 50%. You got them down 50%. Once we got involved, they were going through the sky. The egg prices, they were going through the sky, and you did a fantastic job. Now we have lots of eggs, and they're much cheaper, down about 59% now, and they're going down further. We charge 2.8% for so many things that other countries are charging 200%, 300%, and 400% for. If imposing tariffs and protective barriers made nations poor, then every country on earth would be racing to eliminate these policies, and China would be the first on line. They run a very strong country, but they're not first in line, and the American people are paying a very big price. From 1789 to 1913,
これちゃんと説明しとかないと。米に 700% も日本はかけてるって言ってるでしょ。ミニマム米買い込んでるわけですよ。
What they were going to do with the vast sums of money they were collecting. We were collecting so much money so fast, we didn't know what to do with it. Isn't that a nice problem to have? What do you think, Marco? Good problem? Marco would love that problem. But we don't have that problem anymore, but we're not going to have it very much longer, I will tell you. But they collected so much money, they actually formed a commission to determine what they were going to do with the money, who they were going to give it to, and how much. Then in 1913, for reasons unknown to mankind, they established the income tax so that citizens, rather than foreign countries, would start paying the money necessary to run our government. Then in 1929, it all came to a very abrupt end with the Great Depression, and it would have never happened if they had stayed with the tariff policy. It would have been a much different story.
メディナルさん、めでたいさん、ごめんなさい。タイだな、これ。ありがとうございます。
Took years and years to get out of that depression, far longer than even FDR had that office right over there for a long period of time. The ramp system, it's rather intricate, was built because of him, and every time you walk up, you think of him, and he did a great job in many ways, but it lasted long beyond his terms, as you know. But it's not too late any longer, and we're going to start being smart, and we're going to start being very wealthy again. We're going to be wealthy as a country because they've taken so much of our wealth away from us. We're not going to let that happen. We truly can be very wealthy. We can be so much wealthier than any country. It's not even believable.
もっと豊かになれるんだよって言ってるね。
Nearly a century later, in the face of unrelenting economic warfare, the United States can no longer continue with a policy of unilateral economic surrender. We cannot pay the deficits of Canada and Mexico and so many other countries.
Economic surrender.
We can't do it anymore. We take care of countries all over the world. We pay for their military. We pay for everything they have to pay. And then when you want to cut back a little bit, they get upset that you're not taking care of them any longer. But we have to take care of our people. And we're going to take care of our people first. And I'm sorry to say that.
もうアメリカン国民を take care of first 言ってますね。
Standing up for the American worker, and we are finally putting America first.
アメリカンワーカー、特にね、アメリカンファーストで行くぞと。
In Sleepy Joe Biden's last year in office in the United States,
Sleepy Joe Biden.
100,000 manufacturing jobs, and the number was going through the roof at levels never seen before. And our trade deficit reached a record $1.2 trillion, which is unheard of. Since the beginning of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made. It was a horror show. I was able to determine it. They all said you'd never be able to get it out. We had to get approval from Congress to get it terminated. We had to live with that deal. It was the worst trade deal ever made by far. But since the very beginning of NAFTA, our country lost 90,000 factories. Think of what that is, 90,000. Think about putting a map up and putting tax on it. You wouldn't have enough room. 90,000. I said, is that possible? We had it checked 4 different times, and it was actually somewhat higher than that. And 5 million manufacturing jobs were lost while racking up trade deficits.
5 million manufacturing ロス、
That was the
こんな
worst
に
trade deal
被
ever
害
made.
被ったんだ。
As a result of these gigantic losses, foreign nations now own $26 trillion more of American assets than American
26
than the
trillion
Americans
dollars.
own of their own foreign assets or other foreign assets. The United States can no longer produce enough antibiotics to treat our sick. We have a tremendous problem. We have to go to foreign countries to treat our sick. If anything ever happened from a war standpoint, we wouldn't be able to do it. We import virtually all of our computers, phones, televisions, and electronics. We used to dominate the field, and now we import it all from different countries. A single shipyard in China now produces more ships every year than all of the American shipyards combined. Think of that. And it was a business that we used to dominate. We used to dominate it totally. In short, chronic trade deficits are no longer
Used to
merely
dominate.
an economic problem. They're a national emergency that threatens our security and our very way of life.
National
It's a very
emergency
great threat
and
to our country.
security.
And
まあ、
for
アメ
these
リカこれ
reasons,
必ず言うんですよ
the
ね。
United States
National
will
security.
implement reciprocal tariffs
東京に CIA を置いといて何がナショナルセキュリティだ。
since we even thought of that. We used to think about it a lot. We didn't think about it for many decades, and you see what's happened. For nations that treat us badly, we will calculate the combined rate of all their tariffs, non-monetary barriers, and other forms of cheating. And because we are
No
being very
monetary
kind, we're kind people. Very kind.
バリュー、まあ、一つの単純
Not
な
so
価値
kind
観
when。you get ripped off with salaries. My auto worker friends and my Teamster friends and all of the unions that typically voted Democrat, they're not voting Democrat anymore because worker, whether union or non-worker, they're for the Republicans now. That's what happened.
うん、
But we will
組織さ
charge
れて
them
ない労働
approximately
者も。
half of what they are and have been charging us. So the tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that, yes, but it would have been tough for a lot of countries who didn't want to do that. I'd like to see the chart if you have it. Could you bring it up, Howard? This is our great Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. Thanks. So if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs.
67%.
The USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So it's 67%. So we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be because we never charge anybody anything. But now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders.
ヨーロッパユニオンはタフなトレーダーだと。
They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%. So we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me. I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors.
コンピューターチップス、半導体、
Everything. We had all.
台湾。
Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost
TSMC が
40%
来たっ
Lee's
つって。
working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei of one of the great companies of the world, actually.
Mr. Wei.
Coming in from
まあ
Taiwan.
個人の名前まで出してます。
One of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that. But 64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan.
Japan.
Very, very tough.
Very, very tough.
And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart to do it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there, right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose. Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46%.
46%.
For certain items like cars, little items like cars. 46%, we're charging them 24%. India, very, very tough. Very, very tough.
インドも very, very tough.
He's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not be treating us right. They charge us 50%.
友達なんだけどね。
You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades. And it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China in charge, and we took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs. And they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand. And the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have to go through a little tough love, maybe, but they all understand. They're ripping us off, and they understood it. Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. He was a fantastic man. He was
安倍さんはファンタスティックマンだったと。
But I went to him and I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. Trade is not fair. He said, I know that. I know that.
Trade unfair.
Gentleman. He was a fantastic man, but he understood immediately what I was talking about. I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. He said, I know that. And we worked out a deal, and it would have been a much better deal, but frankly, there were many years left on the deal that was made previous to my getting there, but it was something. If you look at Switzerland, 61% to 31%, Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States of America. United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%,
プライムミニスター心臓ってもうやっぱりもう心臓で止まってんだよね。
Going on in South Africa. You know, we're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it. Brazil, 10%, 10%. Bangladesh is 70%.
ブラジル 10%、バングラデシュ
Pakistan, 58%. Sri Lanka.
イギリス 10% なんで
So what we're doing is we're taking not the full, we could take the full 88%. Thanks a lot. He's doing a very good job. How's he doing? All right? I think you better take it with you. It's not going to last very long. He's going to put it, it's going to follow you down with the wind. I brought a hat just in case it got too windy, but here's, would anybody like a hat? I'm not giving it to a cabinet. I'm giving it to the auto workers. Come on. Thank you, fellas. Get it. That's it. That's it. They deserve it more than our cabinet. Our cabinet has plenty of hats. But you see the numbers. The numbers are so disproportionate. They're so unfair. At the same time, we will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart? And that'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating. So we're going to have a minimum of cheating, and we're going to be very severe on the people that at the gate that watch the tariffs and watch the product coming in, because there's been a lot of bad things happening at the gate because the money is so enormous that you're talking about. There's never been probably anything like it in terms of the enormity. And there are a lot of bad things happen at the people that do the check-in, and they're looking at 10-year jail sentences if they do play. We're going to treat them so good, but if they cheat, the repercussions are going to be extremely strong. Foreign nations will finally be asked to pay for the privilege of access to our market, the biggest market in the world. We're right now the biggest market in the world. We had a great country 4 years ago in terms of the economics. We were doubling up on China. We were doing so well. Nobody was going to catch us, but so much of it slipped away.
誰も俺らに追いつかないっつってる。
I campaigned on this policy throughout last year, and today that promise was made, and it was also a promise, as you know, that was kept. Promises made, promises kept.
約束を守るか。
To any company that objects to our common sense reciprocal tariffs, again, reciprocal, back and forth. And I call this
Back and
kind
forth.
reciprocal. This is not full reciprocal. This is kind reciprocal. But what we do is we cut it in half. We charge them. My answer is very simple. If they complain, if you want your tariff rate to be zero, then you build your product right here in America, because there is no tariff if you build your plant, your product in America. And we've seen companies coming in like we've never seen before. Likewise to all of the foreign presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, ambassadors, and everyone else who will soon be calling to ask for exemptions from these tariffs. I say, terminate your own tariffs, drop your barriers, don't manipulate your currencies. They manipulate their
これまだずっ
currencies
と
like
続きますね。
nobody can even believe, which is a bad, bad thing and very devastating
ちょ
to
っと、ここいらで、まあ大体予想されたことだけど、飛んできましたね。千代先生、おはようございます。
はい、おはようございます。私もずっと聞いててですね。
ええ。
はい。まあ本当に強いあれですよね。本当大統領ですよね。アメリカファースト、国民ファーストって言ってね。
なんか僕はこの前の動画でもう消費税なくしたらどうだと、これ消費、
はい。
関税障壁っつってて、しかも日本の国内を弱くしてんで、
はい
ト。ランプの追い風でなくしたらいいと思いますけどね。
ええ。まあね、自動車関税が先に来たっていうかね、相互関税が明日って言ってましたからね。
ええ、そうです
で
ね。
もまあ追加関税 25% で、今日本があれでしょ、今 24% って言ってましたよね。
24% って言ってましたね。
はい。まあだから結局交渉粘り強くがどうなったんでしょうね。ただ本当びっくりしますよ、もう昨日。
ねえ。
はい。まあね、昨日動画でもやったんですけど、
ええ
上田総裁は、
ええ
この関税について各国の貿易に大きな影響が及びますねって言ってるんですよ。なんか、
一言みたに。
あないた、いやいや、一言みたいにね。で、なんですか、林官房長官も必要な対応を粘り強くまだやっていくっていうね、もう前日当日なのにまだこんなこと言ってましたからね。だからもうこういうふうになっちゃったんですよね、要は。
いや、本当そうですよ。
うん。
千葉先生おっしゃる通り、もうなるようにしてなったっていうしか思えないですね。
そうなんです。だから本当各国の首脳とかね、首相とかは本当に交渉して喧嘩売って頑張ったんですけど、
ええ
結局日本はもうなるほどなみたいな。で
相手の出方見て、その後、国内対策やって終わりじゃないですか。
でなんか石破さんはあれでしょ、その関税がかかった場合に相談窓口を作るとかね。もうなんかそういうニュースがあったんで、相談してどうするんですかね、国同士のあれなのに。
そうですよ。この政府に相談しても何も出てこんですよ。
はい。
おそらくですね、予備費かなんかで、中小企業とかね、そういったところに、融資枠を広げるぐらい、そんな話じゃないですかね。
そうですよね。くれるわけじゃないんでね、貸します、手入れで貸すとかね、いう形なんでしょうね。
で、それでも
また借金が増えるわけですよ。
奪ってますから、プラ
はい。
マイゼロっていうかマイナスですよ。
じゃあまたさらにね、これで物価が上がったりとか生活厳しくなるんですけど、
生活が
それをまた
厳しくなるから
税金で取るんですよね、また我々から。
そうなんですよ。
ですよね。
あんた方対策とかせんでくれと。
はい。
昨日も外務審理教のがおごったこと言ってるんで、なんか X で特別会計の闇とか言ってる人がいますけども、
はい。
特別会計なんか闇なんかないと思いますって言うから、俺の目の前で言うと、おお、そうかと、じゃあ、この法律なんだと、今度ですね、経産省また、あの人たち枠作るのが得意なんですね。枠っていう簡単に言うと、プリペイドカード。
はい。
ある予算についてのプリペイドカード。で、そこにはですね、財源書いてないんですよ、その法律には。
はい。
で、財源は今度、もう当然、この財務金融委員会のところで出る法律に書いてあるんです。2つに分かれてる。普通はプリペイドカード作ったらチャージしなきゃいけないんです。そのチャージャーが別のところに置いてあるんです。だから、これいくらなんだろうって、その法律だけ見てたら分かんないんですよ。もう本当にね、姑息なこといっぱいやりますよ。
いや、もうだからもうこれでね、本当にあれですよね。原口さん頑張っていただいてね、本当に変えてもらうしかないっていうかね、我々は応援するしかないですけどね、今聞いてらっしゃるもそうだと思うんですけどね。ただ昨日野田さんですねのコメントで、石破さんは毅然としてタフに交渉する姿勢が全く見られないというね、いうことをおっしゃってましたよね。やっぱりね。
誰が見たってそうですもんね。
はいはい。まあこれだけなんかね、いいなというかね、やる気あるなとは感じたんですよね。立憲代表としてね。
まあ、そこはもうちょっと当たり前の話ですよね。
はいはい。
タフもなんも、だって会った時に言ってないんですから。
言ってないですもんね。で、その後も言ってないですからね。
言ってないですから。
人に任せてね、電話の1本でも2本でもしてね、トランプさんみたいにやってくれてる、これがこっちに伝わればいいんですけど、ほぼもう無策でなんか全部受けちゃったみたいな感じになりますからね。
ねえ。いやー、今 YouTube で闇はありませんって財務課、じゃあ随契約ない、あれは闇じゃないんか。一社応札闇じゃないんか。天下り闇じゃないんか。
まずいところはね、蓋をして。
ちょっと今、この、僕に闇なんかないって言ってる人、はい、どうぞ答えてください。いや、ほんとね、頑張らんといかんですね。
いや、本当ですね。
千代先生の昨日のライブだけちょっと流したいと思います。
はい。
はい、すいません。それと今度大阪行くんですけど、大阪ちょうど、あれっす、天皇陛下と秋篠宮様が行かれる日と重なってんですよ。
そうなんですか。
俺とカズさんとユキさん、大阪から
皆さん、
これね、
皆さん、こんにちは。今、午後2時40分過ぎたあたりね、相場の方は動いてません。日経平均の方が35,700円ぐらいかな。ちょい高ぐらいですよね。で、ドル円に関して今149.90ぐらいね。という状態で、明日のね、関税を見ながら、という動きなんでしょうね。売買もできてません。それでね、明日の朝5時に、ホワイトハウスのね、庭園のローズガーデンね、ここで一応トランプさんが、アメリカ、米国を再び豊かにというイベントでね、演説をするわけですけどね、ここはもうよくね、テレビで見ますけどね、大統領が重要な演説とかね、記者会見を行う場所なんですけど、これでこの場所でね、トランプさんはいつでも電話を受けて、良い交渉を行う用意があると、各国の政府や企業との協議にね、応じる予定だということを言ってるんですよね。で、問題なのはね、その相互関税は、相手国の関税だけじゃなくて、各国の独自の税制といった非関税障壁も考慮されるので、日本はね、特に米と自動車、これが標的にされるだろうということなんですよ。で、翌日にはね、日本を含むすべての国、地域から輸入される自動車関税ね、追加関税が 25% されるということなんで、これまたやはりね、大きな影響出ますよね。明日、明後日とね。で、日本車はね、逆にね、この3月に、駆け込み需要、要は、自動車高くなるということで、米国内でね、トヨタで 8% 増、ホンダでは 13% 増、もう今のうち買っとけみたいなね、いう状況だったらしいですよね。この自動車関税を含めた、形なんでしょうね。で、要はね、相場的に考えますとね、もう今この 20% 以内って言ってますけど、この関税、相互関税厳しい状況になったら、要は円高なんですよ。で、ある程度緩んでくると円安なんですよね。だから何々円、ドル円とかユーロ円とか、オーストラリア円とかありますけどね、これちょっと参考にしていただいてね。で、もし大きな突っ込みがあった場合ですね、瞬間的にはデートレというかね、短時間での売買、で多分いけるんじゃないかなと思いますよね。ひげが長ければ長いほどね、これちょっと早朝になりますけどね、もしデートレー中心の方はちょっと参考になるんじゃないかなというふうに思います。そしてね、面白いのがね、ちょっと記事出てるんですよ。今、カナダもね、メキシコも交渉、そして朝方言いましたEU ね、ヨーロッパの方も今、一生懸命交渉とかね、いう準備とか、今も確かやってると思うんですよ。そして中国もそうね、各国がやってるので、ちょっと日本の対応をね、ちょっと皆さんね、聞いてみてください。まずね、日銀の植田総裁は、各国の貿易に大きな影響が及ぶ可能性があると。第三者なのみたいなね、形ですよね。そして林官房長官は必要な対応を粘り強く行っていくと。もう時間がないわけですよ。で、唯一ね、ちょっと記事で面白かったのが、立憲の野田代表がね、残念ながら、今のところ石田総理大臣には、毅然としてタフに交渉していこうという姿勢が全く見られず、政府のお尻を叩くような、要は役割をね、我々が果たしていくと。まともなのはここだけですよね。だからもうよく朝のスペースで原口さんが強くね、言われてますけどね、本当にね、のんびりしてたら大変なことになっちゃいますよ。ね、ぜひね、ちょっとね、まだ間に合うと思うんでね、日本のお偉い方、ぜひね、トランプさん、アメリカと交渉してください。
おっしゃる通りですね。千谷先生、ありがとうございます。もうこの
ありがとうございます。
通りで、やっぱりここでも昨日予想されてる通り、今トランプさんの言葉の中で、自動車と米、700ってまだ言ってんですよね。
そうですよね。
って700だけど、ミニマム前どんだけ買ってるよって、本当に。でも全然通じてないじゃないですかね。
そうです、そうです。だからもう細かいこと分かんない状態で、結局日本叩きですからね。安倍晋三さんはすごいいい人だったとかいうことはフォローしてくれてますけどもね、今ですからね。
その心臓安倍、今ね、亡くなられてますからね。
はい。
いや、だから、安倍さんはバイデンさんの言うこと聞かなかったんでしょ
あ、そうでしょうね。
う。うん、
まあだから
で、その殺害の原因もいろいろ言われてるけど、誰も調べようとしないから、俺が調べてるんですけどね、今。ね、変なことばっかりですよ、あれ。
ね、いまだにまだ裁判っていうかあれになってませんもんね、まだね。
後半が
そうですよね。
維持できないんじゃないですかね、あれだと。いや、
まあだからこれからですよね、これを受けてどうするかというね。
そうなんですよ。まあ、これを受けて、これまで何をやったかなんですよ、本当はもう。
そうですよ。
これから右往左往したってもう、今まで、いや、こっちはこうやりますよと。手伝ってこんな風にやっていいんかって、なんで言わんかって。
そうですよね。だからこれで、まあ、やり返すっていうかね、やっぱりある程度交渉しないと、じゃあこれを全部受けて、分かりました、国民の皆さん理解してください、関税かかりましたから、税金上げますよだったら、もう誰一人納得しないですよね。
もうそらふざけんなって話ですよね。
そうです。
いや明日質問が20分あるんで、その中でこれも取り上げます。
はい、ぜひよろしくお願いいたします。
必ず相手があることでございますので、
まあ確かに答えは分かってますけどね。まあでも言わなきゃ分かんないしね。
いや、そうですよ。とにかく開示しろと言いますんで、ありがとうございます。
はい、ありがとうございます。
はい、すみません。
Goods, tariffs give our country protection against those that would do us economic harm. And many people were looking to do us economic harm. Maybe not so obviously, but they were doing tremendous economic harm. But even more importantly, they will give us growth. These tariffs are going to give us growth like you haven't seen before. And it'll be something very special. I'm so looking forward to it. It's going to happen even faster than you said. You might say, but it's already started. It's already started. Work's already begun on plants all around the country. You see that as before. These are big, rich companies. We have $61 billion started on a big plant going up. It's going to be announced over the next 2 days, and they already started work. Many of these the biggest companies in the world, they've committed to build. We're going to build, sir. And they came here to see me. Build. Press conference. I do as many as I can. I'm pretty busy trying to stop Russia and Ukraine and the Middle East. We got to stop that. We're going to stop the Houthis, which we're making tremendous. They like shooting ships down and out of the water, sinking ships. They get a kick out of it, but they're not getting such a kick out of it now, are they, Mr. Secretary? They're not getting such a kick out of that now. But here are just a short list of some of the companies that have already announced and committed to investment. And this is a company that built its factories and its plants in China. Apple is going to spend $500 billion. They never spent money like that here. They're going to build their plants here. SoftBank, OpenAI, and Oracle, great companies, are investing $500 billion almost immediately. NVIDIA, a hot company, is investing hundreds of billions of dollars. They just announced TSMC, the biggest, most important company in the world. TSMC, Taiwan, with no investment from us, is investing $200 billion. And they said the reason was, number one, the election of November 5th, and number two, the tariffs. They don't want to pay the tariffs, and the way they're not paying it is to build their plant here. So we're going to go from almost no percentage. We used to have 100% of the chip market. Now it's all in Taiwan. Almost all of it's in Taiwan. A couple of other countries, but mostly in Taiwan. And think of it. We had 100%. We lost it because of people in that office that didn't do their job. They allowed it to be stolen from us. Johnson & Johnson, great company. $55 billion.
Stolen from us. Meta
is investing $500 billion. Wow. The Mac is investing $20 billion. CMA, CGM, $20 billion. And then you have Merck, Clarios, Stellantis, General Motors, GE Aerospace, Honda, Nissan, Hyundai are all putting in billions and billions of dollars, and they're committed 100%. And we have never had
Billions and
and
billions.
this is after 2.5 months. This is not. This is after just.
よくこんな頭の中に次々と出てきますね。
Came out with what everybody wanted to do. You know, I watched a gentleman today on television. He used to work with Lee Iacocca, a very respected automobile person, and he said, you know, because they're asking people, they try and get as many negative people as they can, but they can't find them too much. It's pretty hard to find in terms of what we're doing, especially when they see all this investment. They said, so tell me, what do you think of what Trump is doing from the automobile standpoint? He said, I can't believe it. Somebody is finally, he's an older guy, real pro, really top guy with Lee Iacocca. He said, I never thought I'd see the day when this would happen, where somebody had the courage to go and do what has to be done. This is transforming our nation. Our entire nation is going to be transformed, not only with the cars, but in every single other item that's built. We're going to become an industrial powerhouse. And he said that so beautifully today. In fact, I'm going to find out, I'm going to get a tape. And Bruce, I'm going to get that tape and I'm going to send it to you out in Long Island, and you're going to play it for the people. And all your union workers and your non-union workers out there, you got a pretty even split.
また言いましたね。組織された、ユニオンのワーカーもそうじゃない人たちも、共和党の大統領がこんなにワーカーっていうのは、あんまり聞いたことないですね。
And that's going to be much higher by the end of the year. And think of what $6 trillion is. You wouldn't have even a small percentage of that under this other system. We're going to be an entirely different country, and it's going to be fantastic for the workers. It's going to be fantastic for everyone. There will never have been a transformation of a country like the transformation that's already happening in the United States of America. It's an incredible thing to watch, and it's incredible to meet with the top people that you read about, very wealthy people or people that are great managers and executives and presidents of big public companies, and to watch the enthusiasm they have now that they didn't have. They gave up on our country. They went to foreign countries and they built. Companies are pouring into our country at levels never seen before, with jobs and money to follow, and it's really beautiful. In the coming days, there will be complaints from the globalists and the outsourcers and special interests and the fake news. Always
グローバリストってね。
But never forget, every prediction our opponents made about trade for the last 30 years has been proven totally wrong. They were wrong about NAFTA.
この30年の
China. They were wrong about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have been a disaster
Trans-Pacific.
if I didn't terminate it. If I didn't terminate that, United Auto Workers, you would have had no jobs in this country. You would have had no jobs. It was all going to other countries.
全然仕事を作り出さなかったんだよ、この国に。
Crash the economy. Instead, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. And again, I have great respect for President Xi of China, great respect for China, but they were taking tremendous advantage of us, and I commend them for that. I say, hey, if you can get away with it, that's okay. But
Tremendous
they
advantage.
understand exactly what's happening, and they probably, most of them are saying it's about time they did something. But and they're going to fight. They're going to fight fair. Everyone's going to fight. You know, it's like I say to the leaders, look, you got to take care of your country, but we have to start taking care of our country now. We can't do what we've been doing for the last 50 years. From the day of my election, the stock market went up in my first term 88%, with NASDAQ going up 155%, more than any president has ever had in any term in office, by far. And I think we're going to blow that away. And maybe the numbers won't show, but I think they're going to show much better than even those numbers. But what you're going to see is you're going to see activity, that empty, dead sites, factories that are falling down. Those factories will be knocked down, and they're going to have brand new factories built in their place. They're not only talking about renovating, they're talking about brand new, the best anywhere in the world.
Brand new. Excuse me.
Build car plants. And I said, I want to see the biggest and the best. He said, well, we have to go to Mexico. I said, no, I want to see it in the United States. He said, we're not building them in there. This is a year and a half ago during the campaign. He said, we're not building it. You have to go to Mexico. when I was starting to decide to run, and I went to number one in the polls very rapidly, I want to say, let's say in the first hour, and then shortly thereafter, it looked like I was going to win, and the fake news was saying, "Oh no, don't do this." What they don't know is if I didn't win, they would have really been in trouble because nobody wants to read them anyway. But I tell you what, when it looked like I was going to win, I announced that I was going to be doing exactly what we're talking about today. Great consistency, actually, because I've been talking about it for 40 years. But because I saw what was happening 40 years ago.
まとめたのが出ると思いますんで、この後ちょっと国会で、明日、9時から僕の財務金融委員会の質問ですね。一般質疑です。で、明日の質疑は、基本的な資料を出させるようにします。もういっぱい溜まってるんで、で、例の、黒い海、国会での演習で、これ日報出せって言います。今日もこの後ね、各役所読んで、話をするわけですね。で、いや、ちょっともう、一刻も早くこの政権倒して、それで減税連合を作んないとダメですね。これだけのことをやってきたら、日本の基幹産業、これ直撃 しますよね。で、石破内閣って決断が遅いから、仮に補正予算とか言ったって、もうそれ作るあれがないでしょ、力がね。だからもう内閣を変えて、で、もう立憲だ、国民だ、なんとかだって言ってるあれはないんですよ。立憲の中にもちょっともうびっくりするようなことを言うのが いるし、友国連合の出番ですね。頑張っていきたいと思います。それじゃあ、お付き合いいただいてありがとうございます。同時通訳いらんでしょ。というか、俺通訳じゃないし。じゃあ、書道に行ってきます。私、先週行き損ないましたもんですから。書で心を落ち着けて、戻ってきて、時間があったらもう一回、次何をやんなきゃいけない。あれをやんなきゃなったんですよ。YouTube で言えないやつを、これ YouTube で言えないやつをいつも夜やってんですよね。これもう何なのこれ。むっちゃ面白い対談っていうか、4人のあれがあったんですよね。木原邦也さん、吉野俊明さん、奥野隆さん、藤江正光さん。僕、木原さんだけはお会いしたことないんですよね。1時間29分。これをやんなきゃだったんですね。でもこれやってたら、バンされる危険があるんで、この時間は告知で。でも夜はダメだな。ということで、ちょっとここでひとまずごきげんようしたいと思います。ありがとうございました。行ってきます。書道じゃ。ズームの皆さんもありがとうございました。トランプさんの英語はね、すごいわかりやすいですもんね。すごく増えた。やなちゃんのお母さん、ありがとうございました。ヒロさん、アリーさん、鈴木さん、マリコさん、石丸さん、招き猫さん。招き猫さん、一番乗りだったです。ありがとうございます。とほみんさん、三つ葉心さん、ゆきさん、キングさん、玄米中心の生活さん、ミネさん、森信さん、そよ風東京23区さん、今市さん、めぐみ、小畑大分さん、かつりん MK さん、皆さんありがとうございました。では、ごきげんよう。失礼します。 何が終わってない？to you? ストリーム終了する。